So I'm here tonight to bring you a little bit of poetry. And I figured that you're kind of used to music sets, not poetry sets. So what I've done is I thought, well, any great music set will often have a really iconic cover. So I'm going to start with a few covers of other people's poetry, some of my favourites, and then move into some of my own. So given the theme of Beyond, ending gender-based violence, I thought I'd start with one of my favourite feminist poems. Thank you. It's called He Tells Her by Wendy Cope. He tells her that the earth is flat. He knows the facts, and that is that. In altercations fierce and long, she tries her best to prove him wrong. But he has learned to argue well. He calls her arguments unsound. He often asks her not to yell. She cannot win. He stands his ground. The planet goes on being round. Another one of my favourites is this really short, pithy, succinct, amazing poem by a poet called Naira Waheed. You might have heard of her. It's just simply, you broke the ocean in half to be here, only to meet nothing that wants you. So that got me thinking about the state of, I think there are 50 children left on Nauru. And sometimes I don't know what to do about that other than march and rage and write letters and rage and protest and rage and then cry. So I figured I'd channel that and energy into writing. So this is a new one of mine, untested, you're the first to hear it. I'm still tinkering with it. It's called Detention. And it's based on the poem called A Song to End the World by a Polish poet called Czesław Miłosz. His poem describes the world ending during the Holocaust. And that got me thinking about children in camps. And so that's why I wrote this poem. On the day I write this psalm, yellow plumeria worship the sun. Wasps hum their solemn hymns. Children with chalk etch secret messages. And a coral reef rises, always at low tide, from the Pacific. On the day I write this psalm, there's a strange pageant for children with chalk. Chants are rehearsed, candles are lit, prayers are offered. Still no one believes it's happening now. And those who expected poets to mourn and singers to be silent on the day we march are mistaken. As long as plumeria are yellow, as long as wasps hum, as long as poems are weapons, we go to war. For the children in camps, who would be poets but are not poets, and who write in their wrong tongues and repeat while they write, there will be no other end to the world. There will be no other end to the world. So often I try and combine the many hats I wear, and I find that I end up writing poems for my kids. So this next one is for my son. So it's for my son Atticus, and it's called Swordplay. Armed with nothing but his lightsaber, Dad's bookend, and his force field, Mum's best fry pan, he bolsters his nerve, climbs the stairs, and adds staying awake to his heroic plan. He tucks his blankets up under his chin to protect himself from the wardrobe brutes and boggles under the bed and bogoms in the dark patches behind his shaky boots. The gnarled trees outside have gnashing teeth. The floorboards creak under a giant's tread. Creepy crawlies scurry and bins beneath his door, so he darts for Mum and Dad's bed. He's shown courage the brave only dream of, but he needs a sword and shield with skin on. So this will be my last one. This one's for my daughter, Erin. She's named after a character from Lord of the Rings because I'm a giant nerd. Thank you. And I gave her that name because I wanted it to reflect that she's both warrior and healer. And so this poem came out of my experience of witnessing the segregation of men and women at the Western Wall in Jerusalem, and also the segregation between Jews and Palestinians. And somehow that made me think of my daughter, and that I wanted a world without segregation for her. Grandmother's hands were fortified with rubies and gold on Shabbat. Her subversive fingers are a study of dynasties, tzedakah and Fridays. On Mondays, Mother's hands ply the matzah, her leavening palms preparing for heavy bread and weightier words. My preoccupied hands push up my sleeves every Saturday, as if bearing arms uphold shalom. The hands of men press daily prayers into centuries-old creases in the Wailing Wall. My daughter pulls at my Sunday best with her fractious fingers. I hoist her onto my hip to see over the partition. She has her grandmother's hands.